Yeah, it's a little unfortunate. If it's Dynamic Punch, we're in trouble. And it is. I have to go Dragon Claw here. Come on! Oh my gosh, I'm lagging too. Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. Sorry for the late video this week. My editing software unfortunately conked out. It's been probably a decade since I've used it, so I had to go get a new one today. So not a lot of YouTube videos coming out this week, which is why this GBL video is on the later side. But in my mind, I think this is one of the coolest metas. So just going to show a little recap of one of my runs with it and something I hope that Scopely continues doing down the road. But anyway, so today I'm going to talk about the Championship Series GBL meta, and obviously people are like, what does this even mean? Because isn't Championship Series usually Open Great League? Well, it usually is, but for this particular week, especially at the Latin America International Championships, it was not, and it was a very limited meta, and because of that, it was actually, in my mind, one of the best, if not the best meta we've ever seen. And so the team I ran was an Oranguru with a Gyarados and a Turtonator, and the thing that makes a meta really good in my mind is that a lot of Pokemon have play into each other, and because of that, even if you run to a bad lead, you have a lot of ways playing around it, and you can outplay your opponent sometimes. Sometimes you might still get hard countered, but it's much less likely than, let's say, I don't know, locking your Altaria into a Bastion or a Unova Stunfisk into a Shadow Marowak, right? Stuff like that. I have two back-to-back sets for you all, so let's get into it. Before we get into the battles, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to all my patrons who've been supporting my content creation. If you'd like private one-on-one coaching, scrims against me, some of my league guides and strategies ahead of time, or even tune into my live stream battles, feel free to sign up through the Patreon link down below. Obviously, a lot of people are using Oranguru in this meta, and if you watch the actual international championships, then day 2 was 100% Oranguru usage. However, just because something is 100% usage doesn't mean it doesn't have checks, and I think that's what makes this meta good, because there's a lot of things that still can beat it. But we're going to see a lot of Oranguru in today's footage for sure, and I don't really mind it too much. Alright, so how I play this matchup out is I just stay in, and my Oranguru is good enough that I can tank 2 Bro Swings. Most Oranguru are, and because I landed, I'm going to just shield and farm down. These metas are really, really good because what it does is it teaches you how to play the mid game to late game really well. Obviously, energy management is really important. Using shields is really important. But I think something that a lot of players struggle, especially even the best players in the world, is knowing kind of when to spend your shields, when to bait, when to swap out, stuff like that. The lead matchups, these top players all know how to play out their matchups really well. But when it gets a little bit more complicated, where maybe you're down shields, where you're down energy, down health, things are not as linear. And I think that's where the really good players excel on making those plays. Obviously, knowing here, whoa, okay. Oh, you don't like the meta. All right, I'll let it go. All right, let's get Cheggy out of here. Turtonator, though, I opted for the Ember variant. I didn't really talk about this in the beginning video, but I think Incinerate is definitely a better move overall. You get to energy a little bit, you build up energy a little bit faster with Ember, but Incinerate just does like twice the damage, so it's quite good. However, what I noticed that is, at least against good players, they're going to know how to optimize much better into these matchups. So it's much harder to play 5-turn users into good players because you just really can't optimize your energy very well. They're always going to just take advantage of it, and you'll have to give up turns, or they'll be able to catch on you, stuff like that. So in my mind, I think Ember is much better, especially at the upper elo range. I think at lower elo range, you could probably get away with Incinerate. Obviously, Incinerate makes you a little bit better into stuff like Togekiss as well, which is very strong into the seam, but there are a lot of ways around it too, mainly just Oranguru. But yeah, and then, you can see here too, right? The Incinerate Turtonators just really get eviscerated a bit from the Gyarados as well too, because they can just optimize really well and just kind of outpace you on a lot of these moves. All right, this person's running a Alolan Raichu, which is not great for the Gyarados. That being said, yeah, they have Psyshock as well, which is not good. Definitely kind of a spicier pick, but I think it go badly too. There's a lot of viable options, right? You don't have to run Oranguru, you don't have to run Gyarados or Turtonator or some of these very popular meta picks. I'm in a tough spot though. Let's see what we can do about this. I tried to pause, but nothing really came through. I don't know if they paused or not, or maybe a Volswitch came through. Let's see. Health-wise, I don't think it did. But the Volsters just come through against the Gyarados, and unfortunately, it's just not enough. Oh, wait. Oh, but yeah. Oh, we tied there. Okay, I'll take the tie. Oh, that's a really good player, too. He was the top finishing Japanese player in PJCS last year, which is why he has that champion shirt on. But yeah, unfortunately, taking that Volt Switch was my slight downfall. Now, how do I play against Togekiss? Honestly, this is the thing with Oranguru, right? Outside of like a few matchups, it's got really solid matchups against everything. Like, it has play into everything. It doesn't necessarily win a lot, but it has play into a lot, and that's what's most important. And what I do is I just throw a Trailblaze. It's resisted, but you get the full Confusion down. You're boosted as well, so I could do a lot here. And then I get the matchup I want because now here comes the Shadow Claydol, and that's, you know, generally pretty good for me. Probably could have thrown a move here, but I end up not. So if I threw on Charge Attack Priority, it might have been good. But we still go for the Crunch, and it's likely going to be shielded. Yeah, it still gets shielded. And then now I'm going to come in the Turtonator. Now, this is still like a little bit dicey of a matchup because this Dynamic Punch still does a huge chunk of damage, and I essentially can't really let them farm me down otherwise they get to a Rock Tomb. So I purposely kind of let this go down, and then I try to get to a move with the Gyarados. Now here's the unfortunate part: I still get hit by a Shadow Punch, but I'm thinking the Mud Slap's not enough anyway, so we should be a-okay. We're going to go for the Crunch. We're going to do a little bit more damage. Just enough with the debuff. But they somehow survived 3 Dragon Breaths. So, super close loss. But again, this is what's so good about the meta, right? If you play clean, you can make even your losses really close. But also, you could usually grab some wins as well if you play even better than your opponents. Alright, Glalie. Again, you know, small meta, but there's actually a lot of things that you can still see in this meta. So, I actually don't even think it's that crazy. But yeah, they catch. Ooh, they get a full Incinerate on with the Turtonator, which is not ideal. But we do have ourselves the Gyarados, and getting the Brutal Swing off is not too bad. Puts it pretty much in Dragon Breath range, so I'm just gonna go for the Dragon Breath down. They go for Brutal Swing, which is interesting. Maybe they're running Overheat or Flash Cannon. I don't know. Typically speaking, Dragon Claw is a little bit better there, but again, they might be running Overheat, which makes sense in this meta too. End up catching a move. Don't love this. Well, we'll see. So it's ended up being Charge Attack Priority though, and maybe Trailblaze would have been better. We'll see what they have in the back. Okay, not too bad. So they do have the Runerigus, which we have a pretty solid matchup into, and should be able to grab a lot of advantages here. Yeah, so we get back-to-back Brutal Swing, should grab the shield. Now we can swap over. Rock Tomb is not going to be enough to take me out, so it's actually not too bad. And even if they go for a catch, maybe it's not the worst. Yeah, Brutal Swing here is not enough either. I have a pretty high IV Turtonator, so going to be able to take this damage no problem. And yeah, just got to dance around your matchups, and we get the 3-ball there. Yeah, but again, really good meta, a really good one just to practice kind of learning how to dance around these mid to late game situations. What do you do, right? Because again, if you look at these matchups, there's not a lot of like super hard counter, right? The Turtonator can hit back even against the Gyarados. Obviously, it's not a great matchup for them, right? The Runerigus can still hit back against the Oranguru. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down below. Do you think this is one of the best metas we've seen, or do you hate it? I don't know. The only other meta that I like, maybe even more than this, which people will call me crazy for, is Flying Cup. I love the Flying Cup meta. It was just like 6 flying Pokemon, but all of them had played each other. It was super boring from a viewer standpoint because you just see the same Pokemon over and over again. But from a player standpoint, it was super fun. And I think that's a distinguishing factor. Is some metas might be boring because there's like a lot of repetition, but it's very fun because you have a lot of play into stuff. Yeah. So, anyway. But that's just kind of my little spiel on the situation. They got a Dewgong in the back, which is pretty annoying for this team because it has a lot of play into everything. But still have 2 shields. So we're in an okay position, I think. I'm going to go for the Crunch, and then they don't shield, which is quite nice for me. I don't know. Did we see the third Pokemon yet? I think... Oh, it's Turtonator. Okay. Yeah. This is not too bad for me because now I have the back-to-back. So I can... Indeed. Oh, I go for the catch, actually. Well played, Caleb. But yeah, ends up working out pretty well. And I still get to the Brutal Swing. I mean, generating energy quickly here is pretty nice. And then their timer's not up yet. We could just hit them with the Aqua Tail on Charge Attack Priority. It's going to be pretty big. Knowing your, you know, what wins Charge Attack Priority or not in this meta is also very, very important. As you can see here, we go 3-1-1 because we did tie against K-Sarn. So, still getting a decent amount of elo, right? Because it's mostly positive set. 1 negative, 3 positive. Tie just essentially cancels out. Catch a good lead. for once. I mean, none of the previous leads were that bad. It's just, it's rare to actually catch good or bad leads with this Oranguru. I like to go for Trailblaze just for the confusion damage to really add up. And if they swap out there, it could actually be pretty good. I'm just going to shield once here and try to go for the confusion down, which will force them to probably swap, which is exactly what happens. And I have the Trailblaze now, so this is going to do a good chunk of damage actually to the Dugong if they don't shield, and it allows me to get to a Brutal Swing as well. Oh, I think I know how this matchup goes. I do remember playing it because, well, I played it actually only a couple hours ago, so it's pretty fresh in my mind. Oh, actually, no, this is a different battle. Yeah, that's not too bad. Yeah, so we get to the Brutal Swing here, which is nice, and then they have Medicham. And again, another matchup, right? Fighting into Flying type, you would think usually is not that great, but Medicham actually has a lot of neutral play. Throwing the resisted Dynamic Punch is better than throwing the Ice Punch. It's actually same damage per energy, so it's same energy efficiency, but Dynamic Punch just hits a little bit harder, and it puts you in a situation where you might have to shield an Ice Punch or 2 Dynamic Punches, but the Cycle Cut takes you out. So again, situation where you don't usually think that a Fighting type has play into a Flying type, but in this situation, it does. Alright, Rock Tomb should not be enough to KO me right here, so I should be in an okay position. And unfortunately, the Medicham had to move. I didn't realize it was this low, otherwise I probably would just thrown the Brutal Swing instead of go for the Dragon Claw. But slight misplay by me, but they didn't have enough energy to do it much anyway, so worked out. Okay, another Oranguru mirror. And again, I'm running a pretty high rank Oranguru, and even though I lose the Charge Attack priority, we still have a lot of play. So again, that's what the beauty of this cup is. I don't know, I'm maybe hyping it up too much at this point, but I'm not really getting paid to say any of this stuff. It's just kind of how I feel on the matter. All right, they catch the Brutal Swing on their Metang. Oh yeah, this was kind of a weird one. So I thought this was pretty good for me looking into it, because I was like, oh, I get to Brutal Swing as well. I might force a shield or don't get hit by move. Crazy no shield call to know that they survived that somehow, or maybe they just went for it. I don't know. That's kind of nuts to me though. I would never have guessed that they were going to do that. Anyway, they shield their Oranguru, so this is not too bad because I know I could tank some moves. And then they catch on a Bronzong, which is wild because I was like, well, this is like a bad matchup for them, right? But it is a Confusion Bronzong. The Confusion damage is definitely adding up, so that is not ideal. And I was trying to hopefully get a catch, but they didn't throw at all, so good patience on their end. Now I'm in a slightly tough position, because I thought that maybe I'd be in a good spot, but they have a bunch of energy. I probably should have actually came in the Turtonator, because if I get a Ember through, then I could just throw the Brutal Swing on Charge Attack priority. Take out the Bronzong, or take out the Oranguru if it catches. So, yeah, ends up being a little bit rough. So now I know I just need to, like, farm down and get to maybe another move, but they had the back-to-back Brutal Swing. Well played by them. It was a funky game, though, because they kept bringing in their steals into my Turtonator. Well, the first one, they didn't, right? I just counter-swapped them when they say swap the Bronzong, or the Metang. But then when the Bronzong came in, I was a little confused at first, but hey, they made it work. Yeah, even in negative matchups, you can overcome some if you have good energy management. And obviously, the failed catch attempt was a little bit unfortunate for me. I think if I made that, then that would have been a different story. All right. Let's see what we got here. Another Oranguru mirror match. Again, I know I could just survive here, and if they shield, that's fine. Both opting not to shield. Again, having shields in this cup is actually really important as well, so it makes a lot of sense why, well, I didn't, but as well as my opponent did not choose to shield. I figured this would probably be a pretty good bait, but if I recall correctly, my opponent's kind of savage and chooses not to shield this for some reason. Is this a game? Yeah, kind of crazy. I end up catching a Shadow Punch, though, and getting Ember through, which is quite nice. That is going to be a good advantage for me. And this puts me in a really good position. I have no idea what they have in the back, but I do believe they shield this. Yeah, they do. So it makes me think that they are pretty weak to the Turtonator in the back. But we'll see. And they're going to just keep throwing moves at me. At this point, having a little bit extra energy is not too bad at the cost of some health, because you can see it's not too much of a difference here. And then in comes a Dusknoir. Shadow Dusknoir? No, regular Dusknoir. And then we are able to get to this move, which is quite nice. This is kind of a crazy match if I do recall how it ends. Yeah, I shield just because I want to force the energy, because I don't really have a lot of health. And I thought they would have had no Shadow Punch, but they actually didn't. And allows me to get to this Aqua Tail to take him out, and also allowing me to get to Aqua Tail. I would have won Charge Attack priority with the Turtonator anyway, but we'll take it. A little bit even better, not even have to worry about it. And then we get another Fearow. Again, not something that you see super common in the Show 6 meta for this tournament, but it has a lot of play, especially in GPL. It's actually quite safe, I think. It doesn't like hard win much, but it doesn't really hard lose much either. I mean, what does it lose to? The occasional electric, right? But outside that, it's actually quite safe. And it does have drill run too, in case you ever need to get to it. So I think I probably would have considered playing Fearow as well if I kept playing more Days of this Cup, but I did like the team that I end up running. As you can see too, my elo is pretty high at this point too, in the 3100s. So these are all players like around the leaderboard range or close to it. Getting this back-to-back Brutal Swing is massive though, because that's going to be a lot of value there. We got a shield back as well, and we put this in a really low health territory. This should not KO, but they shield, yeah. If I recall correctly, since like the last Metang matchup. And then they go for the Psyshock. And then they go for another move here. Oh, I remember this one. I think they threw Gyro Ball. Yeah, I'm not really sure why. Maybe they anticipated a catch, but there's not a lot of things I could catch that would resist the Psyshock damage. So I'm actually very confused why they did that. Yeah, I really have no idea why. But either way, we come in Gyarados, and even if they bait me here, we should outpace to the Rock Tomb, and that's GG's right there. All right, in comes the Aqua Tail, and there should be enough. But yeah, I'm really happy that we could use Gyarados, my favorite Pokemon, and it's finally meta relevant. I mean, I think it was relevant like in a few metas in the past, but it's been really meta relevant in this particular meta. Shiny Oranguru, which will very likely beat me in Charge Attack Priority. I don't think I want Charge Attack Priority in any of these, but like I said, I have a pretty high rank Oranguru, so to be expected. We're not too worried here. They do go for the catch. End up catching on Tornado. And again, I don't really mind these catches, right? Yeah, it's a good catch, but now it allows my Gyarados to find the positive matchup it's looking for. So, and this one just went straight Brutal Swing, which is kind of interesting. Because of that, it's not going to do as much damage, and I can really maximize my energy here, right? Let's see what they do here. They come in Dusclops. Again, I'm going for the bait. I think I gave up at least like one turn of energy there, but not the end of the world. Does force them to throw the energy a little bit sooner. If I do Crunch, maybe they bait. I end up going for the swap here, and then they come in and swap their own Oranguru. But this is not too bad, because then I can just come in with the Tornado and just go for maybe aggressive farm down. Ember does very low damage. For context, it's like the fire equivalent of Mud Shot. Maybe it's the fire equivalent of old Mud Shot. I always get these confused a little bit. But it just, you know how Mud Shot just did very low damage, right? Even when it's like super effective. So it's kind of like that, right? Or Fairy Wind, right? So very low damage fire move. But it was great for energy generation. I thought they were going to throw the move right away. So I tried to throw on Charge Attack Priority, but ended up not being the case. Allows me to still get this Aqua Tail off though. And again, they don't throw yet again for some reason. So I'm just going to throw the Brutal Swing, take this out, and then survive the Hex, hopefully, and should be able to take out the Oranguru. Let's see. Yeah, I think they're really low on health, right? Yeah. Perfect. And we go 4-1 to close it out. So 2 back-to-back sets. You can see climbing a lot. Pretty much in leaderboard range or just out of range of it. But in my opinion, again, one of the best metas we've seen. And hopefully we see it again sometime. I don't know. This specific meta was so unique, right? Because it was tied in with the championship series. So there's a chance we don't see it again. But Scopely, please. I'm begging you. It would be great to bring this back instead of seeing like another iteration of Sunrise, Spring, Jungle Cup shenanigans, right? We've seen those like so many times already. But that's just my take. I don't know how you all feel about it. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below. But if you like this video, feel free to give a like and share, subscribe for future content. Hit that notification bell to get alerted right when I post a new video. And if you want to see me do these battles beforehand, especially if my editing software just conks out and doesn't work, and you're like, hey, you're posting this on the last day of the meta and stuff like that, well, tune into my live streams, because I do play a lot of these teams before I release the team on an official YouTube video, and the live streams are on YouTube as well, so pretty easy to do that. And you can check out the VOD, so even if you can't catch it live, you can still watch it back, and a lot of these battles are from those live streams as well. But I know not everyone has time to watch live streams, but that is one way to kind of see what teams I'm running, in case you're curious. Anyway, hope you have a good one, and I'll catch you all next one. Peace.